Hello and welcome to the NC podcast. My name is Natasha Collins and I am the host and founder of NC Real Estate, which includes its members club for landlords and property investors to come and build profitable property portfolios that completely align with their goals. If you haven't been to my website yet, why not? You need to head on over there, ncrealestate.co.uk, and there is a free master spreadsheet that will pop up the minute you hit my website. So go download it. You are going to need it because it's the best way to run your property portfolio. Go get it. I'll put the link in the show notes below. Okay, I'm really excited. Today, I have another awesome guest on the podcast. Welcome, Faith Locken. Hey!
Hey!
Faith is a property investor, commercial surveyor, and she has over 8 years experience in the property industry, including roles in estate agency, valuation, investment, and development. She bought her first investment property aged 24 and has continued to invest and develop property over the past 3 years. She documents her property journey through her YouTube channel, The Property Hustle. I'm going to put a link to that, so you go follow it. And she teaches others how to achieve financial freedom through property investment with her comprehensive mentorship program. I noticed Faith because of her fabulous Instagram post, but oh my gosh, you guys, if you've not had another commercial surveyor on this podcast, but you've not heard us interact, we are going to have the best conversation today. Faith, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so excited to delve into our conversation today. So firstly, what inspired you to become a surveyor and how did you know to become one?
Okay, so I've always been interested in property. I used to watch a lot of property shows growing up, as cliche as it might sound, you know, Homes Under the Hammer, location, you know, all of those kind of shows. But I didn't know that it was something you could go into really until I got to university, and I still had that same passion. I'd go to like auctions for the fun of it and stuff. And I had a friend of mine that said to me, look, you love property so much, why don't you go into it as a career? And I thought, okay, light bulb moment. And I literally Googled careers in property, and that's how I came across commercial surveying. And at the time, the only company that I knew that did commercial surveying or property was Savills. So I Googled Savills, saw that they had a summer internship coming up the following year. And so I thought, okay, I need to get real estate experience. So I drafted, I was meant to be revising, but I pushed my revision books aside. I was doing languages, by the way, so completely not property related at all. And I drafted a CV and a covering letter, and I sent it to all the local estate agents in Nottingham. I was at Nottingham University. And I think I sent about 30 emails, and one property company came back to me. It was a small independent real estate estate agent, and they were happy to have me. And I moved my university schedule around so I could have Tuesdays off. And I went and I worked for free essentially in their sales department, which they just started up because they were originally doing lettings. So that was like my first experience in the real estate world. I then interned for a startup serviced office company. I then went on to do the Savills internship for 2 months in their commercial development team. I later interned at an architectural firm when I was living out in China. And then I came back, I did all the kind of graduate schemes, graduate recruitment, assessment centres and stuff. And that's kind of how I winded up at JLL, where I am now.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Well, so you were at Nottingham University doing languages?
Yes, yeah. Spanish and Mandarin.
Oh, and that's why you're in China?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
like what a jump.
It was a huge jump, yeah. But also not so huge in my head, because I was like, this is where, like, this was always what I've wanted to do, getting into property. And I had actually wanted to go down the residential route, but I had a mentor of mine at the time advised that I go down the commercial pathway, because then that keeps my options open if I did want to specialise in resi. But I've actually ended up staying in commercial. Yeah.
And don't you find when you get chucked a commercial portfolio, there's usually resi above somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, where I'm based, so I work in our city office, so around sort of Bank Station. So anything in the kind of square mile is our patch, and a lot of it's all offices, unfortunately.
Okay.
The majority are all offices. But I mean, I guess that's why I started investing personally, because I still had that passion for residential property. So I've been able to kind of do both, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So is that why you decided to invest in property, or it's just been something you wanted to do always?
I've always wanted to do it. And I remember when I joined, I think the first month or two of being at JLL, as much as I was enjoying being at JLL, I was like, I need to be doing it. I can't just be advising. I want to be hands-on and do it for myself. And that's kind of when I started looking. And at the time I was 23, turning 24. So I had quite a lot of stuff against me in terms of mortgageability. I was like, I was under 25, you know, didn't already own a property, and I was trying to get my first investment property. So the broker looked at me like, you're a bit weird. Like everyone else your age is trying to buy a house to live in, like, and you're trying to buy to invest. I'm like, yeah. I want to invest. Because the end goal was always to develop. So I kind of wanted just to get my feet wet, start with buy-to-lets, and then sort of build up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I also, and we had this conversation just before, noticed you're a valuer, which for me, I tell everybody all the time, I'm not a valuation surveyor. I'm not good at Parry's tables. Don't get me near Parry's tables.
I've never used those since uni. I swear we only use them in uni.
Okay, so I've been told a lie that all valuers know how to use Parry's tables.
No, I do not know. No, and I think maybe some of the older valuers, you know, the ones that have been in the game for like 30 plus years, those guys, I've got, when I was in valuation, I had one of my directors who always carried a copy with him, and I was just like, oh God, he was like fountain of all knowledge. But for me, I've just, you know, used Argus, Valcap, Circle, some people call it, and I just kind of plug it in. And we use a lot of financial models as well. So once you understand the concept, or, you know, around valuation, it's not that hard, I don't think.
Okay, so as far as I go with valuation is I can capitalize on rent and all risk yield. That's me. So you tell me how you, like, why valuations? How did you get to level 3? What blows my mind?
Well, at JLL, it's kind of compulsory for everyone to take vows to level 3. And so I was in our residential valuation team for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were doing, it was actually high end stuff. So we did, so I'd value anything from like a Mayfair flat, but all the way out to like new build developments out in Hackney Wick. So it was literally really, really broad. And that's kind of where I fell in love with developments, because I loved development appraisals more than just your regular property, like single property valuation. And then I also spent time in our commercial valuation team. So I did office, retail, and industrial valuation. So I mean, it depends. Like depending on the asset that you're valuing, you obviously approach it slightly differently, and depends on the purpose of the valuation as well. Whether it's for loan securities like bank lending, you've got to be a lot more stringent. There's got to be a lot more due diligence. But the type of valuation that I do in my day-to-day job is valuing essentially a property for purchase or for sale, which is slightly different depending on who your client is. If your client's the seller, you obviously want to try and value it and get them the best possible price to go out to market with. If you're the buyer, your client will have certain return requirements they want to hit. So you'll be looking at deals that are either on or off market and putting them into models, trying to hit specific internal rate of returns for your client. So that I think is a bit more interesting. It's a bit more, you've got to get a bit creative as well. And you've got to think about what's your client's return requirement, what properties are out there that you think could meet that. So that's kind of the evaluation I do on a day-to-day basis.
And what's your job title?
I'm essentially an investment surveyor. So I buy and sell office buildings.
Okay, no, it's interesting because I have also a lot of my students listen to this podcast who will be coming out of university and thinking, you know, what do different surveyors do? What's successful for me? So knowing job titles is really important, so you know where you're falling into. Because I don't know about you, but when I started in the industry, I had no understanding of what job titles meant.
Absolutely not. Like, that's why it's so good to do rotations, because you just don't know what you're going to fall in love with. And I think coming out of uni and going into property, I hadn't even done a property degree. I did a part-time master's whilst doing my APC.
Which university?
That was with UE, University of Western England. Yeah. And having gone through the different roles, I think everyone always wants to end up in capital markets. It's like the kind of glamorous seat to be in, isn't it? Like, everyone wants to do investment because, you know, you're making lots of money essentially. Like, if you can sell a £100 million office building, then you get, I don't know, 1.75% of that. You know, people like that idea, they like that. But I think sometimes you'll come in, you'll think you want to be an investment surveyor, and then you end up in rating, and you might love rating. You know, you just don't know. Like, I've never done rating, but you might like debt advisory, you might want to be a valuer. Like, I'd say like valuation is probably the least desired role to be in. But actually, when you look at the life of a valuer, no disrespect to any valuers, but it's actually really like, it's really steady. It's a steady market. I mean, at the moment with the pandemic, not so much, but for the most part, you can almost know exactly how your day is going to go, or your, you know, because we work in quarters. So you can almost know, like, you're always going to have a steady stream of income, more or less. Whereas when you're an investment surveyor, the good times are really good, and then the bad times are really bad. Like, you know, you could spend the whole year without buying or selling anything. But that's just what you get when you do go down that route. So for anyone that's listening, that's coming out of uni or just starting their sort of career in surveying, think about the future and think about what kind of life you want to lead, because usually there are certain roles where you can be a bit more flexible with your time. You can, at some point later down the line, particularly as a woman. I had a mentor when I was doing all of my graduate interviews. I had a mentor. He said to me, make sure you ask them what their maternity, what did he say? He said, make sure you ask them what their maternity, like, what's it called? What's the word called? Like,
leave?
Yeah, like their maternity, what their maternity leave is like. And here's me, like 22, I'm like, why would I care about maternity? But actually now, like, as I get older, I'm like, actually, he was so right, because the company that you choose to, you know, go into a full-time job with, they're probably going to be the company that you know, start a family with. And we want to know that you can be flexible, or they can be flexible and allow you to have a personal life outside of work. So yeah, just think carefully about the roles you want to go into.
That's a really good advice. Especially if you're not the sort of person who wants to be working 12 to 15 hour days, which I know some surveyors do.
Yeah, so on a typical day, I get in at about 8 a.m. If I've got a lot of work, and I'll get in for like 7:30, and then I probably don't leave till, like, the earliest I'll leave is 6, and that's still considered quite early. You know, the more junior members in the team will end up staying till like 8, and sometimes I get like emails at 10 o'clock from my boss being like, oh, did you do this, did you do that? So it can be harrowing, and you've got to be a certain type of character to kind of stick at it if you're going down the capital markets route.
Okay, that's a good tip of advice. It's very rare that we see surveyors like talking about that, and so I wouldn't have been good in capital markets, that's for sure.
But it's fun. Like, when it's good, it's really good. Like, last year, I think my most exciting project ever, I sold sold Blackfriars Crown Court. That was really cool. That was so cool. Like, we got to go in the cells, and I was like, oh. It was such a cool property to sell. But yeah, that was awesome. I loved that.
Phenomenal. Oh my god. And it's nice, isn't it, when you go in an intriguing building and you think, oh my gosh, how this is somewhere I wouldn't normally be.
Yeah, exactly. And I got to know all of the staff, because I did like 1,000 inspections. Like, that was a really popular building. We got like almost like 17 bids in the end. It was really exciting.
So how have you seen the commercial property industry change, firstly over the last couple of years, but how do you see it going after COVID? What's your viewpoint on this?
I'd say that in the past couple of years, there's been a lot of, I think there's just been a lot of disruption in the property industry, whether it's coming from prop tech or from flex space. People are just, in terms of like offices, because that's the market that I'm in, people want to work more flexibly, you know, and that's why we saw such an increase in serviced offices. But I think going forward, with having gone through this pandemic, I think there's going to be a lot of companies reassessing their need for office space, really, because they've now seen that the majority of their employees can work from home and business can still run. So they might think, oh, maybe we don't need that 10,000 square foot office in the city that we're paying, you know, ridiculous amounts of rent on. And I think people want to work probably even closer to home as well. So I think we're going to see a lot more serviced offices being provided, but much closer to home, rather than, because I think at the moment most service offices are kind of in your kind of Shoreditch, Clerkenwell areas, your kind of cool, hip, up and coming places. But I think we're going to see offices coming closer to home. So I mean, I'm based in Herne Hill. I wouldn't be surprised if a little pop-up office, you know, popped up in Herne Hill, like town centre.
Or you just buy it yourself and you open it up.
Oh, maybe. That is a good idea, actually. Yeah.
We can see what you're doing next. Yeah, I agree with you. I think things are going to change, but it's good, right? Do you not think it's for the better?
No, I think it's good. I think it's good. And I think the more, as upsetting as it might be that, you know, some businesses will have to close because of the result of the pandemic, I think it's good that there'll be opportunities now for more conversions, for more, you know, commercial to residential conversions, and to provide much needed housing.
Do you think that councils, and this is us speculating, again, I say to everybody, we would love crystal balls on this podcast. We don't, but I love a good, like, what if? Do you think councils will start changing their permitted development rights?
I think so. I was on a webinar a couple of days ago, actually. Was it? No, it was yesterday. Oh God, the days are running into one. I was on the call yesterday about the future of retail, and specifically high street retail stores, and particularly like secondary and tertiary retail parades. And I'm actually looking at a deal at the moment down in South Croydon, which is on a I'd say it's a secondary retail parade, and they've already, the two doors down, the property 2 doors down, already got permission to convert and has been converted to flats on the ground level. So I think councils are being open to it. Like, if they need housing and, you know, retail is just not really doing well as a market at the moment, you might as well relax your PDR and allow for developers to come in and provide homes. Yeah,
I agree. Or at least allowing businesses to have their space and be innovative with it.
Yes.
You know, have we put such stringent use classes in our leases? We're going to have to, as commercial surveyors, think, okay, is that actually fair for us to put A1 specifically for hats that are only green?
Yeah. I was in the same call, it was discussed about use class being a lot more flexible, and allowing for like serviced retail. So, you know, landlords buy in a retail store, but then allowing for different retail type businesses to almost rent, you know, sublet space internally. That just allows for it. I think that's just the way the market's going.
I like that.
People I think don't need a whole store for themselves these days.
And being innovative.
Yeah.
And the fact that people should be able to come into shops and, having ordered stuff online, try it in the shop, they either buy it or they don't buy it, but they still have that shopping experience.
Yeah. So it's more like, rather than click and collect, click, try, and then collect, or, you know.
Yeah. Because I don't see how it's gonna. The one thing that I can't see, and I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days, and this is just me like speculating, you know, now you can't go into stores and try clothes on. Have you heard that? Okay, so I've been reading about this, maybe from the American point of view, how retailers are like click and collect, but you can't try on, so you can't return. And I'm thinking, I don't think that can happen because if you're at home and you get things sent to you, You're still going to try it on
it. Yeah.
So I wonder, this is, I read that and I was like, doesn't work.
Do you know what would be really cool? Yeah. If you could click something online now, like click to buy, and then walk into the store and the retail assistant will have, you know, your selection of clothes that you want to try, like waiting for you on the rail, and you just go and you try on, and then you're like, yeah, I'll take this, I'll take that, I'll take that. How cool would that be? Like a personal shopping assistant almost, kind of.
You can book your slot so you're not in a tight confines with everybody else, and they can.
Oh my god, that is a really good idea.
We need to trademark this before this podcast goes out.
By the time we finish this, we'll have like 10 business ideas.
Yeah. So if anybody's listening and wants this, do get in contact.
Yeah.
We're here to help.
Yeah.